This is Stacia, and I'm going to share a tournament game that I played tonight as part of the Tuesday Tussle, which is a classical time control online tournament played on leadchess.org. This is my round 2 game. I played against Denny Helmuth, and this is my second game against Denny. Last time was a rapid game, which I lost with the black pieces. But here we go. He played white and opened with the move e4. It wasn't moving. Okay, so I actually did prepare for this game. One nice thing about knowing who you will play a week in advance is that you can actually do some research and figure out what they play and maybe even prepare. I didn't prepare anything special, but I did look at our last game and decided I would follow that in order to save time in the opening. So, okay, e5. If I really wanted to, I could play d5. I also can play the Scandi. Knight f3, knight c6, and d4. And this is following our first game. This is the Scotch. I take the pawn, and when they take back, I play bishop c5. This attacks the knight. The knight is now attacked twice. And this move, knight b3, is called the Potter variation. I'm actually more used to seeing this move. And after bishop e3, I play queen f6, and they usually play c3 to defend the knight. But this variation is a little different. So knight to b3, I played bishop e6, knight c3, and now queen f6. And this is still the identical position that we had the first game. Now you might be saying, Stacia, you lost that game. Why would you play the same one? Because if you do that, you'll just end up losing like before. Well, first of all, in that game, I missed a win. And so if we followed the game exactly, I would miss that win. It was actually a line where his queen would get trapped. But it's very far in the game. And basically, I got a position where black was only very slightly worse. So I decided to go for it again. And queen f6 here is a rare move. Actually, if I check the database, which I will, pretty sure it's the 4th most common move. Yeah, knight f6 is the main move. There's d6, there's knight g to e7, and queen f6 is move number 4, but it has been played 103 times. And it does have like sharper stats. So okay, I played this. This threatens mate, so white needs to do something about that. And he played queen e2, which is the main move. I went knight g to e7, bishop e3. This is still exactly following our game, and we're now 8 moves in. And I'm pretty sure this happened last game as well. I took. He takes with the queen. And I play d6. Now, I will say this. I don't think that taking is necessarily a good move. It's probably not, but I have a point. I figured if we followed the game like last time, yeah, after d6, he castled. I played bishop e6. And I'm going to turn the arrows off. Wow, it says white's a lot better right now. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. King b1, and a castle queenside. Wow, so I will say this. The engine says white is plus 1.5, which is kind of surprising. Oh, there's only one good move here, though. And I believe it's knight d5. Yeah, I was worried about this move during the game. This basically forks my queen and my knight, which I think pretty much forces me to take with my bishop. If I take with the queen, the pawn comes in and forks my pieces. So I would have to take the bishop, and then, well, I'll go ahead and show it. I think this is kind of forced. Oops, not that way. With the bishop. Now the knight's attacked, and the knight is doing an important job. So, I'd have to play knight f5, attacking the queen. Now the queen cannot stay on this diagonal. And after maybe it's saying queen d2, then I think I have to go king b8. Or no, I have to defend, I have to move the knight. Wow, it says knight e5 and white's +2. Wow. All right, well, so much for my opening preparation. I picked a line where white can be clearly better after this continuation. Although I am surprised we went this far in the same variation. But after king b1, I castled queenside and he didn't find knight d5. Lucky for me. Instead, he played this move, f3. And this is, solid. So white has no weaknesses. That's nice. But it doesn't really aim for much of an advantage. I played king b8, and he went g4. Now, it was at this point of the game where I wondered what his plan would be. I'm still wondering about knight d5. Might be a move. Computer's not giving it this time. So I'm wondering why. And I think the reason is now we have this same variation, but now white is no longer threatening to take on a7. So I just go knight e5, and this is fine for me. I was kind of expecting maybe a bishop move here. And indeed, the computer says bishop to b5 is probably the best move, but even then, it's basically equal. After this move, this actually commits a positional violation of sorts because the f pawn is now a backwards pawn. And so I would claim that at this point of the game, white really needs to get the move f4 in. And then even once they get f4 in, I think maybe the e pawn's weak. So I think g4 is maybe a little bit too ambitious, but he has a point. He wants to play g5 and attack the queen, which is kind of short on squares. Okay, so I played knight e5. Now if he plays f4, I will take on g4. So that was kind of the point there. So he played here, attacking the bishop. I brought my other knight in, and he took the bishop. Now normally I protect my bishops in chess, like especially since, well, my pawns aren't really committed, but I have a pawn, these pawns are on dark squares. So, I would normally play a move like bishop c8 and just preserve the bishop. But I don't have the two bishops here, so I'm not going to lose the slight advantage of the bishop here. And I reasoned that if he takes my bishop, he would open up the f-file. And why is this good? Well, I thought if this pawn remains backwards, I can then pile up on it down the f-file. So this was the idea. So when he took the bishop, I was a little surprised, but I still have to prove that I can do this. Now f4 still is impossible because of knight takes, so he played bishop to e2. Now the bishop is x-ray defending the g-pawn. So when he pushes now, I can no longer take the pawn because the bishop takes knight. So in this position, I played rook h to f8. Now he really can't play f4 because of brute force. I'll just take it, right? Like f4, queen takes f4. So now I'm starting to feel like white's in a little bit of trouble because this pawn is backwards and I have pressure. I have an open f-file and pressure down the file. So I thought black is probably slightly better, I thought, during the game. But the computer is actually saying minus 1.2. Which is more than a full pawn worth, so it's actually more than I thought. So let's see what happens. He played g5, attacking the queen, and after the game he said he missed this move. Queen f4. Very strong. If you've watched any of my other standard videos in the past, you'll notice I have videos on the queen wedge, and that's what this is. So I'm glad I learned from my past games. That's what you're supposed to do, right? All right, so queen f4. This is a queen wedge. It's basically blockading the f pawn, so it's really annoying. On top of that, I'm basically forcing a queen trade in a position where I have positional advantages because of the f file and the weak f pawn. If black moves away, or if white moves away, like here, like queen f2, I could simply take the pawn. And I think even after rook here, I could go queen to e7. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I would definitely take this pawn. And even if he does this, I think that queen e7 was my choice, but computer's saying queen e7's fine, and it likes queen h6 even better. Maybe keeping an eye on this. So pretty interesting. So he thought a long time here. And after maybe 15 minutes of thought, this is G45, by the way, 45 minutes for both players, plus 15-second increment per move. He played here. Now, I don't think I have to trade queens. I could certainly do other things. I was considering rook f7 here, and now I see that it's the computer's top choice. Computer's also, wow, computer wants to take on f3 with the knight. Yeah, I think this is very risky though. Like, what about this? There must be, oh, it's not a real pin because now I trade queens. And after the king takes, yeah, there is no pin anymore. My rook's just fine. So that was the reason for that. I'm curious though. Do I have time to move the knight? I do. Yeah, knight c to e5. Just put the knight back. So it's a pawn grab. All right. But in the game, queen takes, king takes. Notice that white is going to bring their king towards the center because with the queen's gone, we could be entering the endgame, and the king will be better placed towards the center. And I played here. So I took the pawn now. He played h4, defending the g-pawn. And I was feeling pretty good. So I am up a pawn now. Plus I have the only open file belongs to me, the f file. Or at least I think it does. Yeah, kind of does because I retreat the knight with tempo. He comes there, which I calculated, and now rook f4. Now I think rook f4 is a strong move because black wants to double on the file. So I'm moving my rook up the file to vacate the f8 square for the other rook. But doing this with tempo is huge. If I was simply moving the rook, like I thought if here, I think maybe white could challenge me on the file now. Or it even says rook d2, but I was thinking about this move. Is this true? Let's see. If here, wow, it says rook g2 is winning. And rook takes c2 is winning. Oh, my bad. I missed this threat. That's a pretty big threat. So there is no time for that. So he would have to go here. Okay. But rook f4 is also good because it's a tempo on the bishop. So he must deal with that. He should either defend it or move it. And he defended it. And I brought the other rook over. So I knew now that I'm a pawn up and I'm doubled on the only open file. So I figured I must be like better and borderline winning. Computer says minus 2.9. So that's basically almost a piece. So I would call that winning. So I guess that was pretty accurate. And he played h5. I feel like this is provoking me. You know, he wants me to play like h6 or g6 so he can open another file. and get some counterplay. Notice I would have back rank issues. So I understand that move, but I didn't go for that. And now rook here challenging me. Now, I'm going to ask you a question and then I want you to pause your video. It was at this point in the game where I really wasn't sure what to do. Like, I know I'm doing well, but how do I continue? So I was thinking of a few moves here, and I'd like you to do the same. I'd like you to pause your video, decide on 3 moves that you would consider, and then which one would you play. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the moves I considered, and then I'll give you my thoughts on those, show you what I played, and then we'll look at what the computer likes. I considered rook f1 check. This would basically force a trade of rooks. I was thinking rook takes check, and rook d1, which gets pieces off the board, doesn't really do more than that. I was also considering rook takes rook, because it would draw the king out, and then I could play rook f2 check if I want, or maybe I would have tricks on the f3 square. This becomes a tactical base, this square. And I also was trying to get this move to work. King c8. I just want to improve my king position. Ideally, my king would come to the e7 square, where it would defend this pawn, because perhaps you noticed that this knight is actually doing the job of defending this pawn. That's kind of why I put him there. All right, so I wonder what move you guys chose. I actually went with this line. Computer likes rook f1 check the best. So let's look at this first. Check, I'm assuming takes, rook d1, yes, this is all correct. And then it wants to drop the rook back to f4, where it attacks the bishop again with tempo. And then it's saying rook g1. And in this position, now rook f2, attacking here. Yeah, that continuation looks pretty good. I didn't see that whole line. I actually missed this move. I missed retreating the rook to f4. So instead, in the game, I took here with the idea of king takes, and then I played this move, knight e5. So I'm checking with the engine. The engine does say that's the best move. Wow. So I'm pretty happy about that. There's also knight to b4. I looked at briefly, but it looks complicated, so I didn't play it. And there's also the obvious rook f2 check, which I wrongly thought during the game that white could answer with king to e3, forking my rook and knight. But actually that's not true. The knight's defended and I could take here. The only problem with taking this pawn, though, is that I vacate the f-file. So I don't know if that's actually good. Let's have a look at that real quick. Like if here... There's other, like this comes with check now, but the rook's attacked. So it actually does say to take here. And I was wondering about this move. This threatens mate in 2. So it wants me to just play b5. Wow. So allowing the counterplay, I mean, this feels unnecessary. Like the engine calculates all this and says, oh, after all this counterplay, black's better. But it's like, I don't know if I would do all this. Now it says knight e2. Knight e2. Why would... I'm not sure about that. I was wondering about this. Like, why not? Oh, look. This doesn't work. So yeah, the computer saw all this way ahead of time and determined that white can't get real counterplay. Like, I'd be concerned about that plan. That looks like a plan. But okay. Let's go back. So this is where you talk about practical chess versus what computers do. Computers calculate and calculate. That's sort of unnecessary. Like as a human player, I don't think I should vacate the F file because that just allows white to do things. So instead I played this way. So this move, knight to e5, is actually really interesting. So I'm thinking about taking the bishop, and I'm threatening this. So this is called a reloader tactic. So basically I'm threatening to check on the f3 square, which would fork the rook and the king, and after the bishop takes, I can do it again, and then the fork's real. So he saw that and he defended. Yeah, and now this is another key position. So here I take the bishop. This is totally fine, like black is still -2 after this, but I would say that this choice was maybe a little bit lazy, I would say. Because, well, what I failed to realize during the game that I won't forget, because I did go over this game with the National Master Michael Jolson, and he basically said, "You gave up your knight? Why?" So my knight on e5 is like the fantastic knight, meaning that he's in the center of the board and there's no white pawns that can ever kick him out. So because of that, this knight is very, very awesome and should not be traded for this bishop that's staring at a defended pawn. So plus I have rook f4 attacking that bishop immediately. So for that reason, I would say this is actually a bit of a mistake. Better would be rook f4 attacking the bishop, or maybe even c5. The idea of c5 is that I want to move my king up, but if I go king c8, I'm actually walking into a pin, and then maybe this move is possible. So instead of that, after c5, the king can go to the c7 square. So those two moves I think are much better, especially rook f4 though. I mean, check the bishop with tempo. What's wrong with that? But instead I took, and it turns out my position is good enough that I can get away with this. And now I played rook in. So here, I also had better moves. Computer gives rook f3 check. Yeah, it just wants to eye this pawn, I think. Checking any other reason? Like, what about king e2? Knight d4 check. All right, I'm not actually sure what that move does. It doesn't make much sense to me. But the computer wants, wow, b5. Yeah, I don't know. Creating luft, obviously. Oh, maybe threatening to destabilize the knight. I went in like this though, so I'm occupying the open F file. And okay, he went here. Oh, and one thing I haven't mentioned is in this game is that it looks very natural to play the move e5, like just from a pawn structure perspective, like, oh, why not just do this? It supports my knight and, you know, yay pawns. That's my description of that. I actually think e5 is actually a mistake though. First of all, the e5 square is great for the knight. The knight could reroute there. And second of all, when I play the move e5, I'm giving up the d5 square. So this would actually help white's position. Whoops, sorry about that. So, yeah, so this move is actually a mistake. And one idea I thought of during the game was that it'd be possible, if the knight gets here, it would be possible for white to play h6. And I don't want to take because it would open up the g file for the rook. And then when I play g6, I'd be letting go of this square. So the knight could actually firmly plant itself on f6. And guess what? My h7 pawn would be blockaded and weak. And this pawn is very close to queening. So losing it would be, yeah, big chances for white to come back. So for that reason, I basically decided not to play e5 at any cost, and instead just limit white's counterplay, which I think is a really practical way to play these positions. Okay, so he played h6, g6, so there's that square I was talking about. So now I really don't want to let the knight in here. And now he played here. Not sure what that move does, although I don't know what white should do necessarily. Oh, actually I do. During the game I thought about this. Computer says e5. Why e5? Well, it kind of messes up my pawns. Also, yeah, let's think for a second. It's going to give white this square. I guess I don't have to take the pawn, actually. Yeah, maybe I can go, well, computer's saying knight c6. And then he could take like that, I guess. Yeah, so that actually weakens my pawn structure a bit because currently I have one pawn island. And after this move, I don't think I should take because then I have double isolated pawns. And if he goes like this, then yeah, I mean, I'm fine, but my pawn structure is not as good as it was. And the computer does say minus 1.2 for black instead of what I had in the game, which is more like minus 2. So yeah, I think that move is strong. Now this move is a blunder, but hang on a second. I played c6, which is also a blunder, a4, and now I played a winning move. So go ahead and pause your video and see if you'd like to find it for yourself. Yeah, and I'm excited about this, guys, because I'm not someone that ends games like this normally, but I played rook takes knight, and this wins on the spot. So basically, my knight in the center of the board has created tactics, and this rook doesn't belong here because of the forking opportunities. So he has two ways to recapture, with the king and with the pawn. If he takes with the king, I have knight e2 check, and if he takes with the pawn, I have just vacated this square, and I have knight f3 check. So he did take with the king in the game, and I promptly played knight e2 check, and my opponent resigned. So there you go. Now let's go through the game quickly and see. I like to learn one important thing from every game. So what was the key moment here? What could I have done better? Mind you, it is important to also learn from wins, not just losses. Well, one thing I learned is that this line that I'm playing is not so good. Yeah, trading bishops is weak, and then also right here, or no, maybe even after castles. Yeah, right here he has the move knight e5, and this is actually really good for white. And is it here? Knight d5, I'm sorry. Yeah, knight d5 is strong here, and even stronger after this. Here it's also strong, so I'm going to need a new line against Denny Helmuth. So that's homework for me out of the opening. I think this all was played pretty well. Really well. I didn't play anything special. What I did was punish his decision to create this weakness and take my bishop. So I think this was all fine. And probably one of the main things I learned is coming up here. This actually turned out fine. I really like knight e5, this move. So if I was going to learn anything from this game, I think it would be this move right here. So failing to realize, yeah, and you know, this happens a lot in chess. Like sometimes when you think you're winning, or sometimes when you think the position's too complicated, it's very tempting. And lower rated players do this all the time. They want to just trade pieces and make the game simpler. So I think that was the main motivation for knight takes bishop here, which is almost always a wrong idea. And here, in fact, it is not a precise move. I lost some of my advantage, a whole pawn worth, in fact. So I think, you know, I'm going to stick my nose in this for a while because I need to not make moves like this if I'm going to be a strong chess player. Yeah, so knight takes bishop. Boo. Giving up a strong knight, and I have better moves available. I have c5 and I have rook f4. So, yeah, I should have said, hey, my knight's fantastic. Don't give up my knight. Look for better moves. And this is a nice improving move, allowing king c7, defending the knight. And this is a tempo move on the bishop, annoying for white. So there's one other moment like that. Well, missing the tactic the first time wasn't good either, but also allowing this move e5, also not good. What was the other move? There was one other time. Well, I guess that's pretty much all though. Okay. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my play this game. It's probably definitely one of my better games. And I'm probably lucky to get a win against this opponent. From what I hear, he's pretty strong, stronger than his Lee chess rating. So, yeah, that means that in the tournament, I have one draw and one win. So, feeling pretty good about that. There are 3 weeks left, and I'll be sure to share the games on my channel. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something from it. This is Stacia, and remember, chess is best. Talk to you later. Bye.